back to Bane of Morgoth Miniatures. As we look over our model from the last few videos, I'm at the point where I'm ready to call him done. But as every great model is finished, there's always one step remaining, and that is the base. Now, the interesting thing about a base is it can elevate a model far above anything standard. So say I were to give this model, let me see what I got on my desk, a nice simple round base. I could lose a ton of things that I'm going to gain from this far more creative base. Kind of 2 footprints, a rock, some snowflakes, a little bit of like flare on the front edge of that as well. As we look over this base, I want to do it justice, but also not get crazy. A lot of times we can spend too much time on something that, well, let's be frank, no one's going to look at as much. So I need to make sure that what I do here is not spend endless time on the base. I think it'll be something that's good, but not something that totally takes hold of the show here. But on the flip side of that is, if you don't do enough on it, it will also be noticeable. And that's kind of true for a lot of things in life as well. If you're going to become adept at something, you have to be well-rounded in that adeptness. And where you aren't, it will show. So be mindful of the different ways that you pursue an activity. If you have 100 activities that you pursue, you quite quickly find yourself not being efficient at all portions of it, not being good at all portions of it, which if you're just doing it to wing it, then wing it. But if you're aiming to be good and well-rounded at something and truly find the passion in it, it's good to find the little things that make you annoyed with the process. So perhaps it's learning an instrument and there's certain ways of doing things that you're not excited about, or certain genres of music that you don't lean to at all. I often encourage people to move somewhere that is not remotely their comfort zone. Find something that is not what you would naturally swing to. Now, that's not to say only do that, but sometimes in the courses of the mundane or abnormal to our own liking, we find a different flavor that we didn't know we were going to love until we loved it. We can take miniature painting, for example, for me. I didn't start miniature painting until my brother did, and then he went, I don't got time for this. As opposed to, ain't nobody got time for that. And he said, hey, you've got a bit more free time than me. Circa, you don't have kids, and ergo, you don't have kids, and I do. And also, just the different structures of our life were a little bit different. And he said, hey, you wanna pick this up and, kind of give it a go? And that was 4 years ago. And it would have been very different now that I got rid of my brown here. And I still need some. It would have been very different if he had never said, hey, what about this? What do you think? And at first I went, I don't know. I'll give it a go. And I sat on his couch and I painted one model for someone for critter gifting. And I went, oh, this is what I want to do. So often in the mundane and the unexpected, we can find a piece of ourselves we didn't know existed. Now that I've talked about life instead of painting, essentially I'm starting off with just a basic brown coat. Sure, I could start with black. Absolutely, you're right. But black is boring when it comes to base coating. You simply end with a black shadow, and all of this model has been bright. I've gotten blues and purples underneath for the shadows, as if we need a quick reminder here. Let's look at the shadows. Purple. You can pick it up on the camera, it seems. And blues. This was even just my base coat color with these blues. And for the base, it's not going to be brown when it's done, but if I fail to cover something, I would like it to not be gray. Now, I might mince those words, or eat those words, I should say, when I put a bunch of colors on here. Gray will likely be one of them. But I want to go for a snowy base, and, oh, there we go. Let's use all of my blue. And when I go for a snowy base, I find myself wanting to make sure, gotta tap my blue down so I can, quick thought. Now, I have way too much blue. I'm not going to use that much blue. I don't want to waste it because it's in this bottle as opposed to like an open cap bottle that I can't scoop it back into. There's two options. I can wiggle this and pull it out and then scoop it back in. Or if I get lucky, I'll tap it down so that there's no air in this section anymore, right here, this tube section. And I can slowly squeeze. And air is being released up through this. You can see the bottle is depressing. And as long as no drop comes out the top of that, at this point I've got my fingers nearly together, I can turn it over. And with the power of suction, slowly release my fingers. And just draw it back up. Now, if I want to go again, I will have to tap it down to get the air out of there again. See, kids, this is why we pay attention in science class. And we use our thinky parts when we're having fun. Because now I saved probably half of the volume I just spilled. And I will likely use a good portion of this blue as I dabble with a different technique or two. I need to get some blues in there because if you look at snow, it's really grays and whites, but that's awfully boring. And if you've noticed anything about my painting, I don't know if it's not awfully boring, but it's certainly colorful. And so much of what we do is best when there's some imagination of color behind the process. So I want to make sure that I've got some blues and some light blues kind of down and around as I'm working here. I'm waiting, kind of talking so that this will dry well. Don't want to work on a surface that's not dry. It'll just come up, and maybe I'll once again eat some words on that one. I want to make sure I got everything set and ready to go so that when that is dry, I can start doing some wet blending style techniques with a bit of stippling involved as well. Now, those are just a bunch of fancy words to say, while the paint's wet, I'm going to move it around intentionally, but not to the point that it's almost drying and moving around, because it's the almost dry that makes the paint a problem, not the wet that makes the paint a problem. So there's sections of this that are definitely dry. I can tell by the glare effect of it. There's sections that are clearly still wet. So we have dry sections and wet sections. I want that whole base layer to be dry. But then I've got some jabber brushes, also known as stippling. So just some straight bristle brushes that I don't care about. Always have some janky brushes on hand. You need your jankers. This is a base coating brush. I use this to base coat because all of these janky hairs are the things that wrap around and grab all the little weird corners and are quite proficient at going where my brain does not think to go. Now, we have moved close enough to this timer, I think. And I'm going to grab a smaller stippling brush as well. And having a few brushes on hand keeps you from having to dig mid-process. Now, the reason I browned out across this edge is because that's going to be gold at the end, and brown is a nice undercoat for gold. Gives it a little bit of a warmth that black does not give it. Now, with stippling, depending on how specific you want your stippling, you want to make sure, kind of like dry brushing, that there's not an excess on the brush. Now this will become more and more important when I'm not doing the base layers, but I'm going to show you the process on these undercoats. And if I screw up on them, it is less important if there's a bit of a mess up. So essentially what I'm attempting here is just creating texture that isn't globby. And if I miss and get on some of the rim, some of the filigree on the edges, that's not overly important in my eyes. Because once again, there's steps you can be messy on, and there's steps that you can no longer be messy on. Now, as I've done a few different times on this channel, this is a technique that I have attempted in different ways across different models, but never with snow. So we're going to see if this layering technique, see I got a little crazy, a little heavy-handed there, is going to feel good or not. And I can be confident in telling you that I don't know how the finished product is going to feel or look on this particular style of painting. Between your colors, you can clean off your brush, you don't have to. They're going to get blended together in some capacity throughout as well. The important thing is that you're not fully covering. You can see there are still brown areas there. And maybe even all the way at the finished product, depending on how crazy I feel, we are going to have some brown that shows up. And depending on how thin the snow is, that would be the case as well. So there's some things that are happy accidents in painting, and we're going to have to see how happy and how accidental some of the process is here. But I have never shied away from doing something that I'm not terribly confident in, because failure is one of the best teachers. Being the golden student and getting everything right all the time hardly teaches you anything about yourself, and will likely teach you less than someone that has to fail to victory. So push edges is the thought for today. If you're not willing to push your edges, you will be the same you were. Maybe you'll grow a little. But the people that really grow are the people that know, especially hobbies, it's going to be okay if you mess up. Especially like in the 3D printing world, oh no, this cost me 20 cents to print. I think I'll be okay if I don't do it to my liking. Oh no, it cost me an hour of my time. How many of us have sat on our couch and watched an hour of Facebook Reels or random videos, and then after that hour can't say a single thing they saw? Yeah, I think we're good with wasting time. Let's waste time on things that could make us better. And in that application process, we will learn more and more about ourselves. Like when I first started this channel, I thought this was going to be a very zen kind of, I'm going to paint and I'll put some background music on and it'll be very nice and everyone will enjoy just the process and say, oh, that's a cool technique. But instead, I decided I'm going to talk the whole time, which hopefully that is to your liking. And the many hours of voiceover training that I've done are not going to waste in that aspect, as much as it saddens me not to be doing voiceover work as much. Now, this is where I'm making a decision. I've got two grays, one white. Is this gray going to dull it out too much? The answer is probably. And I also want to use gray on this rock. So I think I'm going to pivot and use the gray I already have on this brush to just trying to get a pretty substantial covering on this rock. Going in with a plan, sometimes that plan has to pivot in a creative way to get you to the goal you actually want to be at. So that is strongly covered now. And as I move up to this lighter gray, I don't want this rock to be a vibrant detail. So I'm going to use kind of the edge of my brush to just pull some of these higher edges. Kind of like an edge highlight, but just a really sloppy edge highlight. If you look at rock, they're just bound with texture. And that's an important part of this, is that texture is going to create realism that does not exist with, let me paint exactly how I think. Robots are exact, and nature is a beautiful tapestry of divinely inspired random. So it is important that we don't mechanize that which is natural, because that is not the way it was designed. Now, get a little bit cleaner here. My rock's in a decent spot. I'm going to switch over some white here. All right. And I am curious, what amount of white is going to be the right answer? What amount of white is going to go, ah yes, this is snow, and not, what is this egregious blob in front of my eyes? Looks like we got some free purples there. I think I might have grabbed a little purple there. Luckily for us, purple is in the cool family, and if there's a little bit of purple in snow, maybe it's a little reflection off of the undercoat of our purple boy there, our tiger man. I'm not worried about this snowflake as much, or this footprint as much. If it gets less coloration in it, I'm kind of okay. One, because it's down and dirty and muddy, and not one of these high rises here. These I'm going to hit especially hard as focal points for this whole process. And I'm going to hit the edges of these rocks as well, as snow is kind of moved up onto that. Could get really crazy and go up onto the rocks more fully. I don't think I'm going to do that though. I think I'm going to let it be a little more gray than maybe it should be. Now in 2 minutes I might say, no Josh, you're crazy, and that's clearly not white enough. Now another thing that's going to harm our ability to see if this is white enough is this brown is not going to be as stark a difference. It's going to be gold there, and then down below that gold is going to be a nice black rim. And every miniature painter just sighed a sigh of relief, thankful that I'm not doing some randomly colored rim. Especially our tabletop boys for like Warhammer, got to have that black rim, right? It kind of creates an overall setting for your model, a space for them to exist. Now, all of those colors I've done have left me with this kind of dappled snow color, and I get browns and I get blues and even a little bit of purple, you know, cheated in there. But at the end of the day, I find myself with something much better than I put brown down or blue down and then I put white on top. There's depth and expression and a bit of temperature change. I might even do some edge highlight into this very top rim, just so the snow is evidently white up here. That'll help kind of create something, visual interest for my eye to look across as well. And maybe he is waiting for the first snow of the season to set on his journey. That's why there's not mounds of snow, just this little drift here. And he finally found the point where his parents would let him leave the home and go about on his journey. Let's make sure we're not missing areas. An important thing is to look at your model from weird angles. I guess if this is snow, it should be more white in there. So let's do that. Altogether, his foot's going to be in there, so it's not as important. And speaking of not dried paint yet, that's still brown in there, which is very surprising to me. I was expecting it to be much more cleaned up. Or much more dried, I should say. Now as we clean this off, because you never want to leave paint in your brush, even your crappy brushes, you gotta get those janky brushes a little bit of love. I want to bring the two subjects kind of together and get a look at them. He still reads as the more vibrant white, which I'm fine with. I want him to be bright. I'm going to do some snowflake work. I'm going to come along and just hit the rim here with this same gold, probably dull it in the same capacity. That gem will probably mimic this gem. I want to do some crossover elements so that everything pulls together well. It's certainly not a new technique. What I'm going to do for this, it's going to be some of that edge highlighting work. So a lot of what I'm going to do is just take a brush and run it perpendicular across the surface. I don't want to get crazy, and I'll even catch this top edge here to kind of create a clear divide between the scene and the base itself. And then the gems and the snowflakes, I'm going to go back through and pretty well do the exact same way I did before. But before my next video, which will be a new model, which was suggested by my biggest, littlest fan, who is my good friend's 2-year-old daughter. When asked what I should paint next, I've got the resounding reply of an elephant. So it won't be just an elephant. It'll be some creation that I find online in 3D print. So prepare for some sort of warrior elephant. Who knows? Maybe it has wings. I don't know. I haven't decided on the model yet. But that will be the next video. And this is the 10 videos for this Siberian tiger friend. But thank you so much for the journey that we've been on for this model, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a good night. All right, bye. Just kidding. You thought I was going to leave you like that. Well, I went and, over the last little bit, finished up with a model. So here is the final reveal for you all. No epic music. Is the way I presented it to my wife downstairs. But just did some elements to kind of tie it all together. The crystals to tie back into all the green elements. This gold. I left it as a brighter gold. Some little bit of snowflake work. Some little granules of snow. Just a little 360 for you. Probably get some videos or some pictures up on my Instagram of him as well. But I got the wife's seal of approval, so at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for. Yeah, once again, it's been a blast, and hope you enjoyed the final little reveal here. All right, see you later for real.